H in HR is human and R is resource. So, and I think we are talking about how do we continue to have humanized aspect of the resource continued for ages to come, so that future of work is impacted in a positive way and work continues to become enjoyable, progressive, and continues to help us, live life king size or queen size. So, just for the information of the gathering, we have put AI-enabled tools in the room. So if anybody dozes off, there's going to be an alarm which will go off. So just be mindful. So, challenges, am I audible? So challenges per se, right? We're speaking about information 4.0, information 5.0 or industry 5.0. And from my perspective, actually industry 5.0 also is over.
Yeah, it's
because the way, the last 3 years have been, I think there's been a gigantic leap in terms of the entire outlook of the industry. The challenges for any organization were in the past of attracting, retaining, developing the talent. The challenges today are the same. It is attracting, retaining, developing the talent. And future also is going to be the same, attracting, retaining, developing the talent.
Okay.
The only perspective which changes is the magnitude of the challenge.
True.
What continues to be the challenge is, in all of this, getting the right talent at the right time, at the right cost, and with the right attitude. I think that attitude has got added over the right time, cost, aspect. So I think those are challenges which we continue to have. The subset of challenges of all of this is the topic itself, right? How do we make sure that the human element of the resource continues in this era of being mobile, in this era of remote working, in this era of phones being the entire world, making or breaking the world, and we know why. So I think those are other challenges.
True.
And the third aspect of the challenge is, with information being available literally at fingertips, with ChatGPT and all other beautiful AI tools being available, how do we still retain the human necessity or the necessity of a human being in doing the work? So how do we make that amalgamation work of a human required to do a certain job with the help of data, with the help of information which is available, and still make sure that we do the right decision, we take the right decisions. And I'll conclude by just saying that the data is all available. The only difference is in the decision making. So should we make a more factual decision basis what is available, or should we do a guess estimate? That's the challenge which we have. So those are a few points from my perspective. Yeah, it's the challenges. The challenge is increasing with Ashish being around, right? What to contribute and what not to contribute. I think points to my bhuli kya. So, from my perspective, right? I'm a firm believer कि ये external motivation session वगैरह कुछ नहीं होता है. Okay? Motivation has to be from within. It is only you and you who can motivate or demotivate yourself. And there is a very crude way of self-motivation. जब नीचे गरम होता है, तभी उठते हो, right? So it's very important to have that fire below whatever for you to go, rise. That's how a rocket also takes. I mean, rocket is one of the fastest vehicle, right? Why does it go at that speed? Because it has fire beneath. I think that is something which I absolutely believe in, that motivation has to come from within. You need to have that mindset कि मैं जो करूँगा मैं ही करूँगा. That is one. Second is, you got to have a accountant mindset. And this is something which I have followed in my life, what am I going to get in return? What is going to be my return on investment? ये खुद को पूछना चाहिए. You need to ask this to yourself. Motivation automatically आ जाएगा. Because if I've invested 2 hours here today, what is that I am going to get as an individual? This is what I evaluate every single time I do anything. Because again, return is going to be on your investment. अभी पापा के पैसे होंगे, मम्मा के पैसे होंगे, but end of it, it's a return on the investment which has been made. So that is the second aspect of how do you keep yourself emotionally active. Okay, that's the second aspect. Third aspect or third practice is to have a network of people around you, actual people around you, not the virtual people around you. So it is extremely important to have that, वो कहते हैं ना, हर एक दोस्त जरूरी होता है, वो एक दोस्त जरूरी होता है. It is very important to have that friend with whom you can be yourself. And I can tell you, 15 years of professional journey, I have been fortunate to have a professional and a personal Sarthi, the same person. So it is very, very important to have that person in your life, because with him or her, you will be able to share. The more you share, the more you will open. The more you open, the more problems you can talk about. The more problems you can talk about, the more solutions you will get. So I think that is very, very important to have the right friend with you who can help you navigate through things. Mentor Ashish did touch upon. So, these are things. So motivation has to come from within. It is important to have friends, actual physically present friends. Return on investment, we have to be calculative, because nobody else will help you. A CA will only tell you how to save tax. Nobody will tell you return kaise zyada laana hai. It is you who has to decide that. Talking about practices, I was fortunate to work with an organization, Capita, where well-being was the crux of whatever we did. And for us, people were actually first before business.
Okay.
We had amazing practices when it came to well-being. We classified well-being into various aspects, starting with physical well-being, where we had a lot of these programs available, right from a Zumba session to a yoga session to whatever you name it, we had that. Second, financial well-being, what Ashish touched upon, we had programs to help people increase their return on investment. So how do you invest, where do you invest, etc. We made sure that salary is processed on the second last day of the month without an exception. And trust me, salary coming on time in the account with the right amount is one of the best thing you can do for your employees. It is a basic thing, but still a error-free payroll is something which we emphasized on. We made sure that the insurance aspect of it is what taken care of. So group medical, buffer policy, COVID policy, personal accident, term life, all of this were there. So financially we kind of made sure that they were supported. One of the important aspect, and I think you guys should know also, is we put in a concept of relationship well-being. We brought in experts to help us understand how do we deal with our relations. Because it was COVID time, right? We never stayed so much with our families, with our parents, with our in-laws, with our kids, with our better half, with the extended family. We never spent so much time.
True.
So how do you deal with that relationship? How do you deal with your grandparents? Probably, you were meeting them once in 3 months, once in
True.
6 months. Now you're just with them. So, how do you deal with all of those aspects, right? So relationship well-being. So, that was the third aspect. Fourth, of course, emotional well-being, something similar to what Ashish mentioned. We had a counselor on the call available and all of that. See, towards end of this point, I'll only, one advice to each one of you is, मंजिलें उन्हीं को मिलती है जिनके हौसलों में जान होती है, पंखों से कुछ नहीं होता, हौसलों में उड़ान होनी चाहिए. So I think end of the day it is you, you and you. I think
Yes.
one of the other thing which I forgot to mention is it is good to compete and you should compete always, but it is extremely bad to compare.
Yeah.
I think comparison is the root cause of disturbance. So please remember this, with whatever all of us said, comparison is not required. Competition is definitely required because that's the rocket, right? Remember that. But comparison is what kills. That causes stress, that causes agony, that causes pain, and that probably pushes you to derail from your value system is something I kind of firmly believe in. Only one thing I will emphasize on skill building. It is important to unlearn. जो कुछ सीखा है ना, उसे भूल जाना भी बहुत important है. It's very important to unlearn basis the situation. And that is what we at Haber look at. How quickly will you be able to unlearn whatever you have learned? Because that shows how flexible you are, how agile you are. So my only mantra on skilling, upskilling is have the ability to unlearn. जो कुछ सीखा है, जो कुछ समझा है, उसे भूल जाओ ऑफिस में आने से पहले and try and adapt to what is required for that situation. Situational leadership बहुत important है. उस situation में leader कौन है वो बहुत important है. So it is very important to unlearn. Second aspect is future. What will make sure that you are employable in the future? When I say employable, it doesn't mean only, doing a job. It also means being an entrepreneur. It also means being a researcher. जो कुछ करना है, whatever you want to do, right? Future focus होना बहुत important है. वो हमारा क्लीशे क्वेश्चन होता है ना, where do you want to be after 3 years? तो वैसा खुद को पूछना बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. आई थिंक अभी एचआर पूछना बंद कर दिया हम लोगों ने कि 3 इयर्स के बाद कहाँ होना है, 5 इयर्स के बाद. बट जोक्स अपार्ट, ये खुद को पूछो कि मुझे अगर 3 इयर्स के बाद वहां जाना है तो उस रास्ते पे अभी से निकलना जरूरी है. इट इज इंपॉर्टेंट दैट यू स्टार्ट. सो अनलर्न एंड फ्यूचर फोकस आर 2 इंपॉर्टेंट मंत्रास फॉर अपस्किलिंग एंड बीइंग रेलेवेंट टू द जॉब. चैट जीपीटी आएगा, एआई आएगा, सब कुछ आएगा, but they will only give you information. Finally decision आपको लेना है. Decision यहाँ पे जो है उसी से लेना है, and जो वहाँ से decision लेता है with the help of something which is on your left hand side, I think those are people who are successful. So that's my only 2 mantras. One of the point which I also wanted to emphasize, we said compare, compete. Also, right? Always look at the next person as there is something which you can learn from him or her. See, इतना दिल बड़ा रखो कि somebody is better than me and I can learn something from that individual. I mean, I have taken so much today from, hearing my fellow panelists. I mean, there's been a tremendous learning for me. So that attitude बहुत important. It's very important for upskilling that everybody you meet, interact, come across has something to give you. Something to give you. सिर्फ वो, you need to have that attitude to accept it. वो पारखी नजर बहुत जरूरी है. So that you can take the good things from that individual, learn from not so good things. And, I relate to what Abhishek said, that, we also need terrible managers in our life to help us understand how we should not be. Because कोई तो बताना चाहिए कि बुरा क्या है. And self experience is the best learning anybody can have. So it is important to have terrible people, terrible managers in your life, because they will tell you the value of having good people around and also will help you understand how you should not be. And probably that's what I would kind of conclude by saying, खुद ही को कर बुलंद इतना, खुद ही को कर बुलंद इतना कि हर तकदीर से पहले खुदा खुद बंदे से पूछे, बता तेरी रजा क्या है, बता तेरी रजा क्या है. थैंक यू. No, and I'll snatch what Abhishek mentioned before the discussion. For diversity to come into your organization, you do not need to make them feel different. I think that is very important. And I was astonished when Abhishek said that, he never ran an initiative where he said that I will only hire female through this drive. I will incentivize people only for, helping us build diversity. Because from my perspective, diversity is a thought process. Diversity is a culture. And how do you embrace that? How do you make it very natural so that somebody who is coming through that shouldn't feel, using the word, shouldn't feel I'm from the quota category. So it has to be very natural, and that is how the society and the organization is going to be inclusive, because it's just not about the thought, it is also about the actions which follow through. And I think that is where progressive organizations are going nowadays, that they want to make it as part of their culture instead of taking it as an initiative. No, and I think another important aspect which I think we keep telling our fellow colleagues is come out and talk about it in confidence. And I think that is an important role of us as leaders. How do you create that environment where people will be fearless to come in open and speak about it? When I say in open, in confidence with you as a leader, with your team, how do you create that environment? And that is the biggest success of a leader, if he or she is able to create that environment where, I'm not afraid to go and say that, I'm going through a trouble, XYZ person is creating issue in my life, and can you deal with it? And I can tell you with conviction that we have dealt with such cases. We have taken suo moto actions because the individual did not want to be named but had all the proofs. Without exposing the person, we have taken a suo moto action as an organization and terminated somebody who was at the highest post in the organization. So organizations are conscious, organizations are open. It is very, very necessary for leaders like us to create that enabling environment. And then I always say this, open up and speak. Don't be fearful of the repercussions. Repercussions ऐसे भी है वैसे भी है, तो why not expose and face the repercussions instead of being a victim and continuing to face the repercussions. See, organizations, we need to realize one thing, that organization exists to make profits. They are into business. Okay? So if they make money, if they make profits, they'll be able to reinvest in people, into the society, into the ecosystem. So making money is extremely important. So organizations will continue to look at opportunities wherein they can automate and make it person independent. So that is given, that will continue to happen. That's what has been happening for decades together, right from when the internet was, introduced to ChatGPT and all of that. The flip side of all of this is we as human beings have the ability, the senses we have, right? All the senses. We will be able to use our senses in a much better way because of whatever operational, transactional, routine, mundane activities. If those get automated, those get, covered through your tools, you will have brain space to think what could be done better. And I think that is that is the way I look at technological advancement. All of this is only going to enable us to use the brain space, to use the thinking ability, to create difference in the life of every other person we interact with. And I think that's how you should look at it. Yes, jobs will be taken away, and I think IBM was the first one to openly talk about so many jobs getting lost. But at the same time, they are talking about tons of other jobs getting created, which will actually, and and this is a very common thing, right? As student managers, your aspiration is, I've done MBA, I should get into strategy right from day one. Look at it from this standpoint. If you are able to elevate yourself, your abilities, your skills, competencies to think and not only to execute, you actually will start operating at a very different level, because all the rest of the operational things will be taken care of by the tool. So I think this is an opportunity to look at it from that perspective. So, it is important, and this is through personal example, personal learning. It is very, very important to be flexible, adaptable, and to be willing in every aspect to learn, of course, in the rightful manner. What we have noticed over the last few years is there's rigidity, in the mind of a student, that no, I will only work remote. No, I will only work on this technology. No, within HR, I will only work in L&D or in HRBP or in XYZ. As long as the opportunity is able to give you learning, I think you should grab it by open hands. My own example, I started my internship with Tata Johnson Control. My first assignment, and imagine this, engineering topper, MBA first year topper. I already had like probably 10 horns on my head. My first assignment when I joined Tata Johnson, it was a campus internship, was to convert business cards of my head HR into an Excel sheet. My dreams were shattered. I was like, what the hell, did I take HR to, do this data entry job? I didn't know how to photocopy. That was my second assignment. But from there to today, leading the business from a HR and a people standpoint for my organizations I've worked, that's been the journey. The reason is adaptability, flexibility, and the attitude to learn and grow. No job is of less importance. So I think that is very, very important. Those are traits. HR challenges, right? I'll only, a couple of sentences. From my perspective, I have always been assertive of the change and never been aggressive of the change for my organization. Because I believe when you're assertive, you have thought put into your strategies. When you're aggressive, then your aggression gets into your actions, and what you're dealing with is human beings. They are easily able to understand what you're driving them for.